Hello and welcome to a new video on my channel. Today, I'm excited to present part 20 of Pandora and the Eternal War. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share my channel with your friends. It really helps. Now let's dive into the story. At the same moment that Dr. Walter returned to his office, something truly extraordinary was unfolding at a nearby stand on the edge of a chaotic zone. The battle that Franziska and her hero team had been locked in for several minutes was slowly drawing to a close. The Neptunians lay defeated on the ground, their bodies strewn about in a state of utter ruin. With pointed ears, reminiscent of wolves, and blue scales and fins echoing the forms of fish, these monsters were an uncanny hybrid of aquatic and lupine traits. Yet, it was their uncontrollable rate of reproduction that made them nearly impossible to eradicate for good. Franziska froze when she heard something most peculiar. For just a split second, there was a sound, a cry for help that seemed to emanate from the very air. Then, as suddenly as it had come, it vanished. "What's wrong, Franziska?" "You look as if you've seen a ghost," said Green Forest, the hero of the forest, whose power over plants and trees was as legendary as it was mysterious. "It's nothing, boss," Franziska replied, her voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. "I just thought I heard something." "It's nothing important," Green Forest insisted quickly. "No, it's not trivial," Green Forest pressed on. "Your power has already saved us from dangers we couldn't even begin to comprehend. I trust you. You never fail us." Before they could dwell any further on the matter, the sound echoed again. This time, it resembled the panicked cries of animals. Yet, no matter how hard she tried, Franziska could not put her finger on exactly what the noise was or where it originated. The feeling of impending wrongness only grew stronger, as if something was watching her. Activating her power, aptly named the paranormal sense, Franziska scanned her surroundings. In a full 360-degree sweep within a 150-meter radius, she could detect every superpower emanating from her friends and foes alike. The closer the source, the more details she could discern. But what she sensed now was unlike anything she had experienced before. It wasn't the familiar superpower of the S-rank fighter stationed 15 meters to the north. It was something emanating from an A-rank individual, a presence that felt utterly unnatural. Franziska blinked as she caught sight of something she had never seen before. Her chest heaved rapidly as her superpower, paranormal sense, screamed from the depths of her soul that she needed to run. Everything happened so quickly that she had no time to react verbally. She could only feel her legs weaken. The aura radiating from the A-rank presence was disturbingly alien. It wasn't just the feeling itself, but the complete lack of any previous indication of its presence that filled her with terror. There were no footprints in the sand, no peculiar scent in the air, just the eerie sensation of being utterly alone. "What is this? Why can't I move? My body, why won't it obey me?" thought Franziska, known to her allies by her hero name, Shalwell. Then it hit her. The A-rank individual did not merely wield 1, 2, or 3 superpowers. No, they possessed roughly 15 distinct abilities, a notion that defied all known logic. The feeling of being watched, one that had haunted her since the beginning of the fight, now made a disturbing kind of sense. How is it even possible for someone to hold such an overwhelming array of powers? Franziska wondered silently. In an instant, she saw it. The superpowers of the Neptunians, once scattered, were now converging and swirling in the air like a mesmerizing dance of energy. The desperate, echoing voices calling out for help grew louder. But even as she forced her body to turn toward the source, she found herself paralyzed. It was that very A-rank individual from whom the voices emanated. What are these incomprehensible voices? All I can hear is pain, an unnatural agony. They're begging for help, Franziska thought, dread mingling with disbelief. A stray thought then flashed through her mind, a theory about superpowers suggesting that, over years of training, a sort of psychic imprint or echo of the wielder's psyche becomes embedded in their power. But this raised an even more disturbing question. If that theory were true, how could the person before her manifest multiple echoes that express discontent with their current state? According to the theory, that should never be possible. Help us. Not normal. Limbo. We don't want to remain trapped in the in-between, between light and shadow. The voices moaned in a chilling chorus. Franziska tried desperately to move, but her power whispered a grim warning. If these entities behind her adversary discovered that she had sensed them, it would mean her end. The voice of her ability seemed to murmur that there was no way they could overcome what was coming. Overwhelmed, Franziska barely registered the commands and shouts of her teammates as she felt her strength abandon her. Her muscles buckled, and she vomited before collapsing to her knees. Someone caught her and asked a question, but all she could manage was a feeble plea to leave. In that moment, the last vestige of her strength faded. Something inside her shifted as her eyes began to glow. Through this luminous vision, she could see the superpowers of the monsters trembling within the corpses. The decay of their energies halted, and something else took place. As the first superpower, once anchored to a monster's body, departed, Franziska sensed that it too bore an echo. It was different from a human's echo, yet it was unmistakably present. The echo struggled against an unseen grip that held the superpower captive, slowly revealing the force that was tearing it away. It looked like a hose of violet flames, illuminated only by the pale light of a blue orb representing the monster's arcanus. Unlike the varied and unique arcanus of humans, the monster's powers were strikingly similar to one another, a collective manifestation of their water-controlling ability. This superpower traveled along that tunnel-like structure and merged with the others. Limbo. The word echoed through Franziska's mind as she lay in the arms of Green Forest. What's wrong with her? Can't she tell us? Began Turbo Traby, only to be abruptly cut off by Green Forest. Shalwella has overexerted herself. We need to get her back. She needs her medicine. Green Forest lied smoothly. Even he wasn't entirely sure why, but the gentle tapping on his wooden arms unmistakably formed Morse code. And all the while, Shalwell kept repeating only one phrase. Not alone? Don't let them see? Get away quickly. The team members recognized the fabricated excuse for what it was, yet they all played along. They pretended that their comrade Shalwell was suffering from some mysterious affliction, speaking as little as possible so as not to contradict one another. Just as they were about to turn the corner toward their vehicle, Franziska caught sight of something alarming. All the forces of the Neptunians seemed to be converging in one place. Hovering barely a meter above the ground, this presence felt entirely unnatural. She knew the sensations associated with magic, yet this was not magic. After all, magic cannot manipulate superpowers. A mage cannot influence them in such a way. The echoes of the fallen monsters screamed in a primordial, unnatural tone, as if something were bending the very rules of the world, a phenomenon Franziska had never experienced or even heard of before. Dozens of abilities from over 150 Neptunians cascaded together in a dazzling burst of blue light, merging with both silent and audible screams into a single superpower. As the heroes departed, the dazzling fusion of superpowers that had intermingled moments before finally dissipated. Pandora allowed a subtle smile to grace her lips as she regarded the ability at her command, a power that simply granted her a somewhat broader range of water manipulation. Yet, in its current form, it was hardly impressive. "What can this power do?" asked Camilla, her tone brimming with excitement. "I'm not entirely sure," replied Pandora thoughtfully, "but it appears to be capable of transforming water into all its states of matter, while primarily mastering it in its liquid form." "Can't you control the mist instead?" Camilla inquired, her curiosity evident. "No, that isn't possible," Pandora replied with a shake of her head. "But I can freeze people, and I believe I can even form weapons out of water." Eager to see it in action, Camilla was ready to try it immediately. However, Pandora merely rolled her eyes, pointing out that a weapon formed of water was still, by its very nature, water, and therefore essentially useless. Camilla simply shrugged and insisted that they give it a test. On a spontaneous impulse, Pandora fashioned a spear out of water and struck out. Intriguingly, despite its liquid appearance, the weapon exhibited a solidity nearly equivalent to that of metal. Pandora blinked in mild confusion as she observed her water-forged spear, marveling at its newfound hardness. "Huh? Which superpower in the mix produced that effect?" she wondered aloud. "I thought so," Camilla replied with a proud smile. What exactly did you think? Pandora pressed. I noticed during the battle between the Neptunians and the superheroes that some of the monsters, somehow permitted by their own nature, were able to create constructs out of water. One of them even formed an elongated claw out of water, or something of the sort. So I figured that if you combined all those abilities, you'd likely see a similar trait emerge, Camilla explained, beaming with pride. You're right, Pandora conceded. Then, without warning, the sea's surface began to shift and transform. The water bubbled as a dark silhouette emerged from the waves. Pandora felt an overwhelming surge of paranormal energy erupt from the water, a force that clearly emanated from a colossal Neptunian. This ability was not one of the standard E rank powers. It was of the dreaded D rank. Let me take over, Camilla declared as an enormous Neptunian, nearly 10 times the size of the others, rose from the depths. Water cascaded from its dark, gleaming blue scales, and its vast, fish-like eyes shone with a menacing light. The monster bared its maw and unleashed a concentrated blast of icy cold, hurtling relentlessly toward Camilla. With a single powerful leap, Camilla was catapulted into the air, momentarily suspended as she expertly manipulated gravity to keep herself aloft. The frigid beam continued its course and struck Pandora, but she barely flinched. As the attack subsided, the Alpha Neptunian looked bewildered, while swirling red and yellow flames danced around Pandora's body. Using these flames to counteract the bitter cold had proven unexpectedly effective, though in Pandora's case, it hardly seemed to matter. In truth, the focused blast of cold was too brief to cause any serious harm. Even if it had not been blocked, its duration would have been insufficient to truly freeze her. Camilla tensed her muscles and clenched her fist. Rings of radiant purple light materialized around her arms. Then, with a swift, decisive strike, she lashed out, the very air rippling at the impact. The monstrous figure was thrust backward by the force of her blow, a brilliant violet glow intermingling with bursts of purple light swirling around it as it was flung violently through the water. Camilla glanced at her hand, watching as the aura transformed into a mesmerizing blend of blue and white. In a sudden twist, gravity seemed to reverse, drawing the creature back. Realizing she had expended too much force, Camilla quickly evaded and called out to her friend, warning her to be cautious. As the Neptunian was hurled through the air, it emitted a furious snarl, and its eyes blazed with an eerie luminescence. Yet, to the astonishment of both Camilla and Pandora, the expected impact never came. At the last moment, the creature disintegrated into a cascade of water, streaming down the side of a nearby building without a trace of dramatic force. Camilla cursed under her breath. She knew all too well that she still lacked the precision required to manipulate liquids effectively. Of course, she could easily draw a significant volume directly from the sea, but that was an entirely different challenge. On a solid surface, there was little margin for error. For a fleeting moment, the water simply remained as water, and then an eerie silence fell. Is it dead? Pandora asked, though she was soon proven mistaken. After a few seconds, the creature began to reassemble itself and launched another assault on Camilla. Pandora smiled wryly, musing that combat against monsters was far simpler than the battles waged against humans. Damocle's sword execution, Pandora declared, the phrase crackling with a fierce energy that she found utterly electrifying. Then, from the heavens, a deep black void, a gaping maw in the sky, opened above the monster. For a brief moment, the creature's eyes locked onto that darkness before a brilliant light pierced the gloom. In a heartbeat, a searing white beam cleaved the sky, and the asphalt below shuddered as the radiant light struck the ground. The powers channeled in this devastating attack were Pandora's absolute favorites. Her portal's ability at C-rank level 5, fire at a formidable C-rank level 10, plasma at C-rank level 5, and finally, a touch of electricity from her D-rank level 1 power. In unison, these energies intertwined, plasma merging with fire and electricity to forge the dazzling white light. You've been working on that for weeks. It looked absolutely awesome, my dear, Camilla complimented as she gracefully floated over to Pandora. At that moment, Pandora felt her primal ability stir, osmosia, the power with which she was born. It eagerly unfurled a tentacle of vibrant violet flames. She sensed that her ability had grown markedly stronger with each recent surge of chaos energy she absorbed. To her astonishment, even her power now exhibited its own echo. Osmosia acts just as I would, she mused. It's fascinating. My power now has an echo. But how can a Chaos Arcanist be so remarkably similar to standard superpowers? Wait a minute. If that echo theory holds true, then these faint voices are not merely figments of my imagination. She had once dismissed these whispers as mere hallucinations, a sign of her own mounting eccentricity. But now, upon deeper reflection, she realized that these voices were far more than simple echoes in her mind. They possessed a subtle intelligence. Why did I previously regard these echoes as nothing more than rudimentary guides for my abilities? Pandora wondered, scrutinizing them with renewed interest. She recognized that the strain she felt when merging her powers was due to the resistance of these echoes, as if they were reluctant to be exploited or blended. This realization also clarified why certain abilities, those whose effects she had already nullified, offered no resistance when combined with others. Pandora, what's wrong? You've gone so silent, Camilla asked, her voice laced with concern. I've discovered something. Pandora replied as she struggled to gather her thoughts. Echoes do exist, and they're part of my dilemma. I firmly believe that my ability to steal other powers has blinded me to the obvious. These echoes harbor a quality that renders them elusive, making it difficult to perceive or remember them for long. It was hard for Pandora to articulate the feeling, but it was as if a shadow had tainted her recollections. Yet she managed to push past the intrusion. The pull subsided, and she sensed that something was amiss with Asmosia. The power was straining, exerting itself desperately. Suddenly, vivid purple-violet flames manifested before her eyes, drawing Camilla's gaze in silent astonishment. Then, Pandora discerned the nature of the problem. Damn monster, cease your futile resistance. You are already finished, Pandora commanded, addressing the C-rank Arcanist that was stubbornly persisting. The fact that Asmosia could manifest visibly when Pandora overexerted herself to steal a power was profoundly significant. Camilla looked at Pandora and asked if she could lend a hand, but Pandora wasn't sure if that was even possible. She could envision a solution, yet it wasn't necessary at that moment. I've got this. Just make sure no one sees me, Pandora declared, even though she was already cloaked in invisibility and silence. The strain caused her hold on her illusionary power to falter, and the initial layer of her illusions began to dissipate. Though still shrouded in a rudimentary guise, the illusion now served only to mask their voices and appearances in the simplest of ways. Further tendrils of chaotic energy coiled around the monster's ability, barely within her reach. To make matters easier, Pandora advanced slowly but steadily, taking one measured step after another toward the creature. Suddenly, the echo shattered, unleashing a sound as unnervingly loud as claws scraping across an old-fashioned chalkboard, reverberating through the ruined streets. The Arcanist blasted into Pandora's soul with such overwhelming force that she could feel her body growing noticeably weaker. Then, two different things occurred simultaneously. First, she managed to steady herself as the Arcanist merged with the water power she had already blended. And then, strangely enough, a portion of this newly formed power activated unintentionally, transforming Pandora into water. In that moment, all of her normal senses faded away, leaving only those bestowed by her superpowers. She could still perceive her surroundings using ultrasound like a bat, complemented by her infrared vision. Then, just 1 second later, Pandora reformed into her human shape. Unfortunately, she soon realized that her power had no effect on physical objects. She stooped to gather the clothes that had fallen to the ground, and it wasn't until Camilla turned around that Pandora noticed her usual illusion, meant to mask her form, had somehow unraveled during her transformation. Eh? Camilla mumbled, blushing as she quickly covered her eyes and hand. Why are you naked? She demanded, clearly irritated. Why do you think? Because my superpower obviously can't affect objects. Otherwise, why else would I randomly and inexplicably strip off all my clothes? Pandora replied, a slight, mischievous, almost chemically playful grin tugging at her lips, her eyes twinkling with impish delight. The twin suns caught the glistening water droplets streaming around Pandora's figure as they tumbled to the ground. Unburdened by any sense of shame in their secluded spot, and with only her friend as witness, Pandora took her time getting dressed. In fact, she relished the idea of teasing Camila a bit. Ensuring they were still invisible, she began to dress in a sensuous manner, running her fingers through her short, silvery, tousled hair that shimmered in the sunlight. She deliberately exuded an air of alluring nonchalance, as if hinting that it would be utterly irresistible for Camila to see her clad in nothing more than a pair of shorts. "Oh, please, get dressed faster," Camila urged, a trace of embarrassment coloring her tone. "Why not? There's nobody around, and we're invisible," Pandora retorted playfully, even sticking her tongue out just a bit. "Come on, or I'm not going to open my eyes again," Camila replied, exasperated by the pace. Though they had spent a night together before, it had been nothing more than a fleeting physical encounter, merely bodies brushing against one another. This, however, was of an entirely different nature. "Done," Pandora declared, and Camila glanced over. Camila's cheeks flushed once again as she noticed that Pandora had only slipped on her black leather jacket. Beneath it, there was no bra or underwear, in fact, not even a t-shirt. The gentle contours of her breasts were discernible, accentuated by her well-defined abs, which only intensified the allure. Pandora found the whole situation rather amusing. With a light laugh, she casually tossed the rest of her clothes into a rip in reality, a tear that quickly sealed itself shut. "Aren't you going to get more dressed?" Camila asked. "Nope, not in 1,000 years. It's exhilarating to imagine someone seeing me like this. Even though, of course, they can't since we're invisible. Besides, what's the worst that could happen if they did? It's not as if they'd attack me. And if they do, I'll just knock whoever gets in my way out," Pandora replied with playful confidence. "That's not proper," Camila insisted, trying to dissuade Pandora from parading about half naked. "Yeah, you might be right, but what's the point of having power if I can't use it for my own amusement?" Pandora laughed. Though she wasn't planning on strutting around like that in a populated area, a new thought suddenly occurred to her. The effort required to open portals into her pocket dimension had become much easier. Whereas she previously had to wait 30 minutes between portal activations, the interval had now shortened considerably. By her estimation, she now needed only about 25 minutes of recharging before she could muster enough power to open a portal into her personal dimension. Moreover, the maximum size of these portals had grown from a radius of 4 meters up to 5 meters. Even more intriguing was that the former limitation, whereby people or objects obstructing the portal would prevent it from closing, no longer applied to her pocket dimension gateways. Essentially, this meant that, in theory, someone could even be killed using one. No, that's not going to happen. Why do I have the feeling that this will only lead to something utterly perplexing? Pandora mused to herself. "So you can steal the powers of dead monsters and humans. Now I understand why you wanted to show me this," Camila says. What is she on about now? Pandora wonders, slightly confused. The real reason she brought Camila here was simply because it was a beautiful place. The thing with the monsters just happened by chance. Besides, deep down, Pandora wants to trust someone. She knows it's a risk, but trusting no one isn't an option either. Yes, I can steal the powers of all living beings, but monsters have the disadvantage of not training their abilities like humans do. That means I can't steal their knowledge along with their power, Pandora says, furrowing her brow as she notices something. Chaos energy seeps into her skin like tiny air particles, absorbed by her cells. Whether she consciously perceives it or not is unclear. That's really cool. Can you steal my power? Camila asks, a strange mix of love and something else glinting in her eyes. Huh? Where did that come from? Why would I do that? Pandora asks, confused. Because if you could, then in an emergency, my abilities could be transferred to you, Camila explains. There's no way I can steal your power. It's too strong, Pandora says, looking at her. For a moment, it seems as if a massive presence is standing behind Camila, an echo of her, yet different from all the other echoes Pandora has seen or heard before. This one is submissive. Why does her Arcanus feel like it would never act against me? Pandora wonders. I want you to try. You can return my power if it works, Camila insists. Why would I do that? It would leave you powerless, Pandora protests. I just want to know if it's possible, my love, because if it is, then even in death, I will know I can still help you, Camila says, kneeling before her. What the hell? That's completely insane. Then again, it's not like I'm any better, Pandora thinks. If I do this, you should know that I'm not exactly honest. I love you, sure, but I'm also using you to achieve my goals. And I'm not a good person, Pandora admits. That doesn't matter to me, my love. I live for revenge and for you. You are my everything, Camilla says, looking up at her. Do you accept my love? Because if not, I don't know what else to do except keep attacking my father until either he or I am dead, Camilla says, a tear rolling down her cheek. Fine. Okay. I accept your love. But you do realize you're a yandere, letting a psychopath use you, right? I am the psychopath, the kind who wouldn't hesitate to kill if necessary, Pandora states. Yes, I know. So allow me to serve you, to lay this world or anything you desire at your feet, Camilla declares. Okay, but why me? Why do you love me? Pandora asks. Because you are glorious and beautiful. And honestly, I can imagine you looking stunning in red. If you were a monster that devoured humans, I wouldn't mind being your prey, Camilla says. My God, you're insane. Fine, but I'll only do this briefly and give your power back. I'm not even sure if I can steal it. Your ability might be too strong. But you want this, so maybe it'll work, Pandora says, her eyes slowly turning red. She opens her mouth, and her already sharp canines lengthen into unmistakable vampire fangs. A scent from Camilla draws her in, her heart racing as she moves closer. Camilla starts trembling, but not from fear, from excitement. I think I have to bite you, Pandora the psycho says to her lover. If Pandora had to guess, Camilla was more unhinged than she was. As Pandora bites down, she tries to be gentle, but her wild vampire instincts urge her to rip the blood free, to drink. I am the master of my body. I will not let my instincts control me, Pandora thinks, struggling against the overwhelming urge to drain Camilla dry. A second after the bite, something spreads, purple lines appearing under Camilla's skin. The S-rank Arcanist gravitational manipulation is too powerful for this to work normally. But there is one factor in Pandora's favor. Camilla wants this. The ability could never leave Camilla's body on its own. But since a path has been opened, its echo follows the void to Pandora. Now Pandora sees the echo more clearly. It is as massive as a skyscraper, but that means nothing here, in this empty space. She recognizes this place, though it is different from what she expected. The ground is a mixture of a black liquid and a substance resembling ash. Half of this internal world is a sea as dark as the starless void, while the other half is a deep darkness where no life could exist. Pandora notices strands extending from her grasp, reaching for the power. So, my ability can bring me here if my victim's power is easy to steal. But I shouldn't get overconfident. This doesn't mean I can take anyone's power. This feels too good to be true. There must be a drawback, Pandora thinks as the Arcanist nears her. Suddenly, every instinct in her body screams danger. A wave of fear crashes over her, and she tries to sever the connection, but it's too late. She leaps back, but her body is too slow. The S-rank Arcani surges into her, and immediately her chaos energy threshold is shattered, several times over. What follows is weakness, pain, as the paranormal force rages inside her. Camilla's echo tries to intervene, to stop it, but it lacks the intelligence to separate the energies. It is just an echo. Shit, Pandora gasps as her limbs give out. Camilla's eyes widen in panic and sheer terror as she sees her beloved collapse, writhing in agony. A violent cough racks Pandora's body, and she spits out a large mass of dark violet blood. She now understands. There's no direct limit on the powers she can steal. The true restriction is her body's ability to endure them. Why didn't I realize this before? She wonders as she struggles to move. Blood sizzles where it hits the ground, burning into the sand. Camilla pulls Pandora into her arms, ignoring the pain of the toxic, burning blood against her skin. What do I do? Pandora asks herself weakly. She knows the answer the moment her echo reaches for the chaos, and she knows it will be deadly for Camilla. So she activates her water ability and forcefully pushes Camilla through a rift with an attack. Pandora has no idea how to get more chaos energy. There is a limit to how much she can absorb, but she has to test it. Otherwise, she'll bleed out. Why couldn't I just return the power? She wonders, barely able to think. Something tells her there's a time restriction. Stealing a power and then immediately passing it on isn't possible. It's like reversing a river's current. It's not impossible, but it takes time. no matter what. As Pandora reaches for the chaos, she feels it. Whispers of emotions and final thoughts from the dead who perished in this chaos zone. But like the echoes, these voices are faint, easy to ignore. Something inside her breaks as the convulsions worsen, but at the same time, a wave of chaos surges toward her. As the D-rank Chaos Zone energy rushes into her, Pandora's skin begins to glow. The winds intensify, buildings crack and shatter, and the ground quakes violently. Crystals dissolve into mist. Everything is drawn toward a single point. And yet, there is an eerie silence. It is so unnerving that the Hero Association is alerted immediately. As always, the heroes turn to the Oracle for answers, but she is unresponsive. That means they must handle this alone. For an hour, they argue, debating their next course of action. Dr. Walter sighs, rolling his eyes. If they keep this up, the anomaly will be long gone by the time they decide anything. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out my channel and share it with your friends. If you click on the left side of the screen, you'll be taken to my latest upload. And if you click on the right, you can check out the full playlist. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, take care and goodbye.